Hey guys, it's Mrs. Tupper. I am here to talk to you about the difference between the Pilgrims and the Puritans. A lot of people think that these two groups are the same, but they're really not, and that shows up in their literature. So if you follow the directions on Schoology, you should have a Venn diagram. Yours should be a full sheet. This is a half sheet, okay? A full sheet this way. All right, so if you take a look at mine on the left-hand side, over there, I've labeled Pilgrims, and on the right, Puritans. I've done it in red because of the scarlet letter. If you don't know what that is, you will find out. If you're not familiar with Venn diagrams, similarities go in the middle. There we go. And then differences on the sides. Okay, so let's talk about some similarities. Both groups are Protestant, right, which is a form of Christianity that came out of the Reformation movement. Just need to know they're both Protestant. One difference, though, is that the Pilgrims were separatists. They believed that the church couldn't be fixed, so they had to cut all ties, leave, and form a new, church, right? A new religion, right, out there. The Puritans, on the other hand, were reformers, right? They thought that the Church of England wasn't strict enough and could be changed from the inside out to be better. So they stayed connected to the Church of England, even though they had moved to the New World, because they basically wanted to make a case study, a good example of how strict and pious living, right, could lead to a better life. Both groups are from England, right? Pilgrims, 1620, Mayflower, Plymouth, we learned that. Puritans, 1629, Salem. Bible guided their lives for both groups. But for the Pilgrims, they were more working people. Puritans were educated. A lot of religious study, believed a lot in education. As far as similarities in literature, they both had sermons. They both had poetry. But poetry is really a lot more common with the Puritans than the Pilgrims. We don't have as much Pilgrim poetry, but there's a little bit out there. As far as the people, the Pilgrims, we learned this in Of Plymouth Plantation, gentle and tolerant, open-minded. We see this when we read Of Plymouth Plantation, when they first described the Indians, right? They would use words like skulking, like really negative terms, but they started to open up as they got to know them. The language changed and they created the Mayflower Compact, right? So we see a little bit more tolerance there. We also had more camaraderie, more celebration, those sorts of things. Even though the usual depictions we see of the Pilgrims, they're wearing all black and white and very somber, they did have fun. That's a big difference. The Puritans, on the other side were ascetics, A-S-C-E-T-I-C, ascetics, meaning they denied themselves self-discipline, structure, strict, inflexible, right? They had rules. Those rules had to be followed. Otherwise, you're in sin. Could be shunned by the community. You really don't want to be kicked out of the community at this time because it's the dangerous wilderness out there, right? We talked about that. It's not like they can go into the next town, right, and pop into Starbucks or something like that. Okay. Another key difference that shows up in the literature, God. For the Pilgrims, we saw this with Of Plymouth Plantation. Something was good, something was bad that happened, it's providence. It is all God's will, right? Good or bad, God's will. The Puritans, on the other hand, if something good happens, it was God. If something bad happens, it was Satan. They're very strict, very vigilant for people who don't follow order. This led to the Salem witch trials in 1692. Oh, you can hear my cat. So hopefully that helps. You have some notes. We're going to be moving into some Puritan poetry over the next few days. See ya.